Midnight Café closure, a billionaire's shocking final request for one last cup. The clock struck 12 as the last thick cloud of steam curled from the coffee pot in the dimly lit café. Outside, a storm howled, battering the windows with furious rain. Inside, the atmosphere felt heavy, electric. Whispers filled the room, innuendos dancing in the shadows. This wasn't just any night. This was the final night of the Midnight Café, and it promised to end with explosive revelation. The air was thick with tension. Patrons glanced nervously at each other, their hearts racing, anticipating the unexpected. Rumors buzzed about the mysterious billionaire patron Oliver Corbin, who had secluded himself in his usual corner booth all evening, his presence both magnetic and terrifying. The man, shrouded in darkness, always wearing designer suits that gleamed in low light, seemed to carry an unsettling weight. Even the barista, usually so jovial, managed only a tight smile as she filled cups. Then, the door swung open, slamming against the wall with a bang that made everyone jump. A gust of chilly wind rushed in, almost as though it was trying to steal the warmth from the room. Was it just a coincidence, or did the lights flicker ominously in response? Guests exchanged glances, hushed gasps punctuating the silence. Oliver, however, remained still, his graying hair glistening as he stared into the depths of his coffee. As the minutes dragged on, something shifted. A strange shimmer floated through the air, sending shivers down spines. It felt like the entire cafe was holding its breath. Then, at the exact stroke of midnight, Oliver lifted his cup, his voice shaky but strong. "I have one last request," he declared, eyes piercing through the now gasping crowd, as if they were all a mere illusion. The words hung like smoke, curling around the sickly anticipation. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the cafe erupted into hesitant murmurs, Oliver gripped the cup tighter, knuckles white, and his voice dropped to a whisper. "The last cup, it contains a secret." Everyone leaned in, straining to hear, curiosity peaked to a fever pitch. His eyes scanned the room, daring anyone to challenge him. The room was still, each heartbeat drumming against the silence. What was in that cup? What secret lay hidden beneath the surface of his last dying wish? Just as thoughts flared wild, one shadowy figure at the back of the room slipped away, disappearing into the dark. Laughter erupted from the other patrons, but it felt like a daring distraction from impending danger. The clock ticked down, seconds creeping by, as the tension thickened. The final cup sat waiting, a shimmering enigma that promised to unravel everything or lead to disaster. Could this be the last time Oliver would sip from that cup? Or was it the beginning of something far more sinister? The sound of Oliver's voice hung in the air, thick like the steam rising from the forgotten coffee pots. Patrons leaned forward, straining to catch any more of his cryptic words. Tension crackled, throbbing like a live wire. What could the secret be? Whispers filled the room, faces flushed with a mix of excitement and dread. What secret? What is he talking about? Someone murmured, eyes darting around. There was a mix of intrigue and fear, as if they could all sense the tremors of something monumental about to unfold. Oliver's gaze remained steadfast on the cup, an unsettling calm washing over him as he took a slow, deliberate sip. The cafe fell into a hush, breaths held in unison like a tightly wound clock, seconds ticking toward an inevitable explosion. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. This time, they didn't stop. Shadows danced grotesquely on the walls, casting eerie images that twisted perceptions. Was it the power? Or something else? Panic rippled through the patrons, a few shrieking, while others remained frozen, almost paralyzed by the tension. The barista dropped a cup, the shattering sound fracturing the silence, drawing everyone back to the moment. "Oliver!" A woman shouted, her voice sharp and desperate. "What's in that cup?" His piercing eyes rose to meet hers, and in that moment, a fleeting expression of confusion crossed his face, almost like he hadn't anticipated such an interruption. As if realizing the gravity of his words, he set the cup down, a sudden decision flashing behind his eyes. "You all think you know about me, about my wealth," he murmured, each word carefully measured. "But I'm not just a billionaire, I'm a man who has carried more than his share of secrets. This cup, it holds something you all need to understand." The storm outside raged on, the rain battering the windows like the world's urgency pressing in. Oliver's voice began to rise. "Every time I've been at this cafe, I've buried a piece of myself within these walls, remnants of mistakes, guilt, regret. The secret," he paused, building the suspense, "is the reason I'm here tonight." Gasps echoed through the cafe, rejection and disbelief painting faces. How could a cup of coffee carry such depth? But Oliver continued, his tone fierce. "The secret isn't just mine. It's ours, all of us. If you want to know the truth about who I am, you first have to confront your own shadows." Outside, a crack of thunder shook the very foundations of the cafe, rattling the windows and sending mugs clattering. The atmosphere was electric, each gust of wind swirling in urgency. The patrons watched, entranced, but it was clear that Oliver was becoming untethered, lines of fatigue drawn across his face revealing far more than he intended. As the storm outside crescendoed, the door creaked open again, revealing a tall silhouette bathed in storm light. The figure stepped inside, soaking wet, their identity concealed by shadows and rain. The tension snapped, pulling the room to a breaking point. "What have you done, Oliver?" The newcomer's voice boomed, chilling and accusatory. Panic surged anew. Was this friend or foe? The barista took a step back, her face pale. Oliver's expression shifted, a clash of recognition and fear that sent shivers of apprehension through the crowd. With the cafe enveloped in chaos, Oliver's last cup gleamed ominously under the flickering lights, its contents swirling as if hidden truths writhed to escape. What secrets would spill over? Who was this mysterious figure that had just entered? As the storm reached its peak, both outside and within the cafe, one question hung in the air like thunder. Was Oliver's final request a plea for salvation or a harbinger of downfall? The patrons leaned in closer, hanging on every word, teetering on the brink of revelation. The figure stepped fully into the light, and the cafe went dead silent. Oliver's eyes widened, and for a fleeting moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Only this person stood between the truth and every hidden shadow. "Lila," he breathed, barely audible, a mix of dread and longing flickering across his features. The woman who had once been someone to him now bore the weight of secrets he thought buried. She was hair-drenched and clothes plastered to her skin, but it was her expression, hardened yet trembling, that struck Oliver the most. "What have you done?" Lila repeated, her voice now low and filled with accusation. The barista shuffled back nervously, practically a ghost shying away from a storm. The patrons glared, uneasy glances exchanged like currency, their breath caught like strings pulled taut. "Please," he pleaded, but the word came too weak, cracking under the crushing weight of chaos. How much did she know? Had she come not to save him but to reveal his sins to this audience? "You think the world ends with your coffee cup?" She shot back, eyes blazing. "You've been playing your game, Oliver, and I'm not here to let you escape any further." At that, the specter of Oliver's past rose up like mist from the floor. Memories flooded in, moments shared and promises made that danced right alongside the darker choices he buried. The tension spiraled as he fought to regain control. "Every sip, every time I turned away from what I should have faced, it's all coming back. Look around you." He gestured wildly toward the patrons, whose faces ranged from curiosity to outright horror. "This isn't just about me. It never was." Lila took a step closer, each action deliberate. "You're wrong. The moment you chose silence over truth, it became just about you. And I'm here to show everyone the end of your game." Behind her, the storm unleashed its fury with renewed vigor, thunder pounding against the cafe like a drumbeat of impending doom. Oliver felt it tighten around his throat, the reality of Lila's truth shackled him. "What do you expect me to do?" He barked back, desperation creeping in. Right here, right now? Just like that, I'm supposed to expose all the buried guilt and lead them down with me? Yes, she shot back, fierce as the storm outside. You owe them more than you've given. It's time to stop hiding from what you've done. The patrons were on edge, whispering among themselves, some nodding, others shaken. They were caught in a current of judgment, and with every heartbeat, Oliver could feel the rising stakes. This wasn't just a confession, it felt like a trial. What if I refuse? His voice, more a challenge than a question, trembled like a leaf caught in the wind. Then the shadows will come for you, and they'll take everyone down with you, she replied, the flickering light reflecting off her determined eyes. You're not just the secret keeper anymore, you're the secret exposed. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, a different storm brewed. Sweaty palms twitching, breaths hitched, tension thickened to a palpable entity. What was to come, Oliver could only guess, but those gathered were drawn to him, eager for revelation, distrust and hope intermingling in the air like swirling ghosts. That he returned his gaze to the cup, that ominous vessel harboring more than just coffee. It threatened to spill far more than he had ever intended to share. With Lila closing the distance, uncertainty now gripping everyone like a vice, Oliver faced the unyielding truth spiraling toward him. Then, the door swung open again. The wind howled, carried by an even more chilling voice. And what if I told you the shadows you fear are already among us? The room gasped. Each mind raced, churning questions. Who else was here? What would it uncover? And most importantly, what emerged from the depths of that cup? The voice that slashed through the tension was cold and weighted, drawing every eye to the entrance. A man stepped in, shrouded in a long coat that billowed slightly as the door slammed shut behind him. A wide-brimmed hat cast a shadow over his eyes, rendering his expression unreadable, but the thrill of something dangerous hummed in the air. Who are you? Lila demanded, her gaze flicking from Oliver to the newcomer. The patrons, previously holding their breath, now held a collective sigh of uncertainty. Just a friend, the stranger said, his tone smooth like aged whiskey. But I'm here to help and to remind. Remind? Oliver felt a knot twisting tighter in his gut. Help? If that were the case, why did the man's presence feel like a match struck near gasoline? The crowd was buzzing like a hive, energy constricting around each of them. The unknowing turned to murmurs, drowning out the drumming rain. What do you know about shadows? Oliver spoke, almost a whisper, edging toward the stranger. What do you know about me? Everything, the man replied, stepping forward into the flickering light, revealing a face Oliver recognized all too well despite the years of distance. And so much more than you could ever fathom. The room shivered. Gasps went up again. Oliver's mind raced. What did he know? The secrets buried deeper than any coffee bean? This wasn't just a reckoning anymore, it was a full-blown cyclone, spinning out of control. Jake Oliver's lips formed the name, almost against his will. Memories assaulted him, whispers in dark corners, deals made, sins that linked them as tightly as chains. It's been a while since New York, Jake smirked, a flicker of malevolent glee dancing in his eyes. How's that guilt treating you? Lila stepped back, uncertainty flashing across her face as she realized the complexity of Oliver's entanglements. Oliver, he shut up, Lila. Oliver barked, his voice harsher than he intended. He didn't want to drag her into this mess, but it was too late. His tangled history was pulling her under, too. The tension thickened again, drawn tight by the history grinding against the present. Jake took another step forward, invading Oliver's personal space. The cafe pulsed with expectation. You think you can hide from the truth forever? I'm here to remind everyone, especially you, that shadows don't die quietly. Then bring it, Oliver challenged, his voice low, resonating with the anger boiling beneath his skin. The fire inside him flared. He wanted to tear down the walls he built, but did he dare? That's exactly what I'm doing, Jake hissed, his cold smile widening. This room feels like a confessional, Oliver, doesn't it? Secrets waiting for the right moment to spill over. Suddenly, The unyielding storm outside felt insignificant compared to the storm brewing within that cafe. Coffee cups, fragile and precarious, threatened to shatter under the mounting pressure. The patrons leaned in, sensing the precipice. Would Oliver reveal the darkness that clawed at his sanity? Or would he stand firm against the raiders of his past? Then came the sound, sharp, deafening, splintering through the thick air as a coffee cup smashed to the floor, shards scattering like broken promises. Eyes darted, mouths gaped. Lila's wide gaze met Oliver's, as panic ignited anew. "Are you ready, Oliver?" Jake pressed closer, eyes glinting. For the truth to emerge? As the air crackled with unspoken words, Oliver knew the moment had arrived. The moment that would determine his fate, and the fate of everyone in that cafe. At that very second, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into semi-darkness. What will you choose to reveal? Will you own your shadows, or will you let the shadows consume you? With his heart pounding, Oliver faced the abyss that had haunted him for too long. And just as the darkness enveloped them, a phone rang, a shrill, unexpected sound that sliced through the tension like a knife, interrupting the spiral into chaos. Whose phone was it? What message awaited? No one was prepared for the answer that would change everything. The phone sliced through the silence, each ringing note reverberating in the stunned air. It seemed to pull time to a standstill. Oliver's heart hammered wildly in his chest, feeling each pulse of the moment building suspense in waves, crashing against the walls of his resolve. "Silence it," Lila whispered urgently, desperate to drown out the noise, but her voice barely registered amid the growing tension. Jake's smirk widened, a predator savoring the fear his presence instigated. "Looks like someone more popular than we thought," he taunted, nonchalantly glancing around as if the answer to this sudden chaos could be found in the furtive glances of the patrons. But Oliver couldn't shift his focus. The phone's relentless ringing was magnetic, an electric hum that drew everyone's attention. Finally, the ringing ceased, replaced with a single, gravelly voice. "Is this Oliver Reed?" The face of the caller was obscured, but the voice held a weight that felt familiar and unsettling. It sent daggers of tension through Oliver, each word slicing deeper. "You need to listen closely." Jake's smirk faded, replaced by a raised brow of curiosity as he leaned in, eager to hear whatever revelation was poised to upend everything. Outside, rain lashed against the windows, echoing the turmoil brewing within. "I'm not in the business of games. You need to come to the old warehouse at the docks. We have unfinished business," the voice continued, resolute and commanding. "Come alone, or I can't guarantee that you'll see Lila again." Every heartbeat echoed in Oliver's ears as dread settled in his gut, cold and unyielding. Lila's eyes widened, fear crackling between them like electricity. "Oliver, please, who is it?" She reached for his arm, grasping it tightly, as if she could anchor him to reality. "What do you want?" he demanded, his voice hoarse but defiant. The fact that whoever was on the other end dared to invoke Lila only ramped up the stakes. "You'll find out soon enough," the voice said, chilling and low. "But time is running out." There was a finality in those words that made Oliver's skin crawl. Then, the line went dead. "Oliver." Lila breathed, her voice trembling as panic washed over her. "We can't trust whoever that is." "You're not going, we can figure this out." "I can't risk anything happening to you," Oliver shot back, his muscles tense, every fiber of his being torn between protecting Lila and confronting his past in a way he never wanted to revisit. "Run. Get out of here while you can." Jake interjected, his cold demeanor momentarily cracking, revealing something that resembled concern, or was it just amusement at Oliver's plight? "Don't you see? This isn't just about you anymore. Sins don't just fade. They haunt you, creep in and beckon you back to their darkness." "Enough." Oliver snapped, feeling the walls closing in on him. Was he truly to go back into the life he thought he'd left behind? "Don't think running away will keep this from coming to a head," Jake chuckled, edging closer, almost savoring the chaos. "You'll either face your shadows, or you'll lose everything. Both paths have their price." The storm outside mirrored the tempest within the cafe, brewing chaos waiting to erupt. Could he trust Jake? Could he trust himself? But more important, could he leave Lila behind if he stepped back into that world? Each decision loomed heavier than the last. As Oliver looked into Lila's anxious eyes, a decision surged within him. The air held a thick promise, a lingering question: was this the moment that would shatter everything or rebuild it anew? Are you going to risk it? Jake asked, leaning into the tension, forcing Oliver to confront his old demons head-on. I'll go, Oliver finally said, voice steady despite the shimming nerves. But I'm not going alone. With that declaration hanging in the air, an unexpected crack of thunder split the night, echoing the heavy choices left to unfold. In this moment, everything shifted. Every eye, from Jake's chilling gaze to Lila's wide disbelief, waited to see what this decision would unleash, and as they braced against the winds of fate, Oliver knew he was stepping into a storm more intense than any he had faced before. What awaited him at the docks? Would the shadows there hold his redemption, or were they ready to tighten their grip? The rain poured furiously as Oliver and Lila stepped out of the cafe, the air thick with anxiety. Each drop hit the pavement like a ticking clock, counting down to an uncertain confrontation. Oliver tightened his grip on Lila's hand, feeling the warmth of her palm amid the cold, chaotic winds. Oliver, I really don't think this is a good idea, Lila urged again, her voice shaky. He could see the shadows of worry dancing in her eyes, and it twisted his gut. Then I want to go in through the front, he replied, scanning the dimly lit alley that led to the docks. The warehouse loomed in the distance, silhouetted against the stormy night, dark and menacing. Please, let us just call the police, she pleaded, the desperation bubbling up in her voice. You don't know what you're walking into. He wanted to reassure her, to promise her they were safe, but the reality was far murkier. This wasn't just about the two of them anymore, it was about old faces tied to past sins and unfinished business that threatened to consume everyone he loved. We don't have time, he said as he shifted towards the alley, pausing long enough to lock eyes with her. You have to trust me. With a deep breath, Lila reluctantly nodded. He stepped forward, pulling her along, his heart racing with every step. Rain splashed around them, the echoes of their footsteps swallowed by the night. As they approached the warehouse, the weight of their decision was heavy in the air. A flickering streetlight cast eerie shadows that seemed to crawl along the walls. Oliver pulled Lila closer, sensing the heaviness of approaching danger, its claws stretching for them. Stay behind me, Oliver instructed, his voice a whisper sharper than glass. He moved toward a side entrance, a rusted door that creaked as he pushed it open. A foul smell hit him immediately, stale air thick with mold and decay, adding to the sense of dread. Inside, the darkness was almost complete. Only the flickering of a single bulb overhead offered light. The space was vast, filled with crates forgotten by time, and echoes of past meetings fell heavy on his shoulders. Something primal stirred inside him, the fear of what might come next. Oliver. Lila's sharp gasp pulled him from his thoughts. She pointed towards the end of the warehouse. A figure stood shrouded in shadow, partially illuminated by the dim light. Who's there? He called out, trying to sound brave, though fear coiled tightly in his chest. Welcome back, Oliver. The voice was smooth, almost inviting, but it chilled him to the bone. I see you've brought a friend. The figure stepped forward, and recognition hit Oliver harder than a freight train. It was someone he thought he would never see again, someone from the past he had tried to bury. A slip of relief mixed with panic, leaving his heart racing. You? Oliver breathed, disbelief warring with anger. I told you we had unfinished business, the man said, a sinister smile creeping across his face. And now it seems we have a bit more company. Before Oliver could react, a thud jolted through the air. He turned, heart dropping as he caught sight of two more figures emerging from the shadows, cold, calculating eyes staring back at him, ready to close in, ready to settle scores long overdue. Lila, get back! He shouted as he lunged forward, adrenaline pumping through him. But the moment hung thick with inevitability. In a heartbeat, the shadows continued to close in, and time seemed to blur. Oliver was about to learn that the past didn't just haunt, it hunted. And now, it was ready to drag him back. What choices would be forced upon him? Would he stand his ground or be crushed beneath the weight of truths he wasn't ready to face? As faces from the past swirled around him like a tempest, he braced himself for the storm. Oliver's heart thundered against his ribcage, a drumbeat of anxiety echoing through the cold, damp air. Lila stood behind him, her wide eyes filled with a mix of fear and disbelief. The shadows crept closer, and he felt the urgency of their situation like a tightly coiled spring ready to snap. "Get behind me, Lila," he repeated, a low growl in his voice, urging her to stay close. The three figures watched him, their expressions unreadable, but he sensed the hunger for retribution lurking just below the surface. Oliver, one of the newcomers, spoke, a grin splitting his face. "Still playing the hero, I see. But even heroes falter." The warehouse felt like a cage, and Oliver was trapped. His instincts screamed at him to run, to drag Lila away, but facing these ghosts was unavoidable. Memories dragged him down, reminders of a time when choices had led him down dark paths. "You think you can just walk away? You have no idea the mess you left behind," the shadowed figure taunted, stepping forward. It was Charles, a name that twisted Oliver's gut, bringing back images of broken trust and shattered friendships. "Charles," Oliver spat, anger surging through him. "You shouldn't have come back." "Oh, but I have," Charles continued, taking another step. "And there's a lot you owe me." Oliver felt Lila flinch behind him, the tension crackling in the air like the storm outside. He turned slightly to look at her, sending a silent message: "Stay calm, stay focused." He couldn't let them see how rattled he truly was. "We're not here to play games," Oliver asserted, trying to regain control. "Let her go. Whatever you want, you can have it. But I want to let you drag her into this." Charles chuckled, the sound dark and mocking. "Oh, Oliver, you still think you can protect her? That's cute." He motioned to the men beside him, who began to shift uneasily, waiting for their cue. Without warning, the other two figures surged forward, filling the space with hostility. Oliver barely had time to react. He lunged, using every ounce of adrenaline fueling his body. A fist connected with his cheek, sending him stumbling back, pain blooming like fire. "Oliver!" Lila screamed, her voice piercing through the chaos. Panic and rage collided within him as he scrambled to regain his footing. He couldn't falter now. She needed him. The second figure charged, and Oliver dodged, slamming his shoulder into a crate. It splintered, sending wood flying as he fought off the memories and the regret. He couldn't let them control him. The warehouse walls echoed with his struggles, the air thickening with each sound. Lila's instincts kicked in. "We need to go. Now!" she shouted, her voice breaking through the noise. There was fear in her eyes but also fierce determination. But Oliver couldn't leave this unchallenged. With a primal roar, he swung at Charles, the fist landing squarely against his jaw. But the blow was only a momentary victory. The other two had closed in, and Lila was still too near. "Get behind me!" Oliver yelled again, his voice hoarse, desperation clawing at him. He caught a glimpse of fear in her eyes, fear that he would fail. Then, just as he readied for another strike, a sudden loud bang thundered through the warehouse, cutting through the chaos. Everything froze for the briefest of moments. "What was that?" one of the figures suddenly whispered, a note of uncertainty dancing in his voice. Oliver's breath caught as he turned, eyes wide with the hope for an unexpected turn of events. Just outside the warehouse, the rain poured even harder, matching his pounding heart. In that moment of distraction, Oliver saw his opening. But what lay beyond the door? An escape or another fight waiting to unfold? Choices mattered in this tangled mess. Would he take a risk or dive deeper into darkness? The pulse of the night surged as he faced the uncertain path ahead. "Stay close to me," he whispered to Lila, feeling the storm brewing both inside and outside, ready to unleash chaos once again. Oliver's heart raced as he weighed his options. The bang had shattered the tense atmosphere, creating a momentary gap in the hostility surrounding him. His mind spun, wrestling against the instinct to flee and the need to confront the ghosts of his past. "Run," Lila urged, her hand gripping his arm tightly. He could feel her fear pulsing through the spaces between them, but something in him, the fighter, the protector, begged him to stand firm. Before he could respond, another shout broke through the chaos. "We can't let him escape." It was Charles, snapping the days from his companions. They surged forward again, shifting like hulking shadows caught in the flash of a lightning strike. "Lila, go!" Oliver bellowed as he squared himself against the oncoming storm of fists and fury. He ducked, narrowly avoiding a punch that could have knocked him out cold. Every instinct screamed at him to protect her, but the truth clawed at his insides. He was outnumbered and in deep trouble. For a heartbeat, he caught sight of Lila, her eyes wide with panic, as she took a step back. A rush of adrenaline coursed through his veins. He couldn't let them take her. Not now, not ever. "Get down!" he yelled, and the words barely left his mouth before he dropped to one knee, catching another blow aimed at his head. Instead of retreating, he spun around, launching himself toward one of the attacking figures. They crashed against a stack of crates, sending splinters flying and temporarily stunning his opponent. "Lila!" He turned, but the briefest distraction had cost him. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a glint of metal. The other guy had a knife. Panic washed over him as the figure lunged toward Lila, who was still frozen by the door, horror painted across her face. "Lila, move!" he screamed, scrambling to deflect the impending attack. Just as the figure reached her, she stepped sideways and grabbed a heavy iron bar that had rolled loose from the fight. In one fluid motion, she wielded it like a sword, swinging it toward the man with the knife. The metal clinked sharply as it connected with his arm. He stumbled backward, the knife clattering to the ground. A flicker of pride seared through Oliver, but there was no time to dwell on it. Charles, recovering from his previous fall, charged again, this time with the calculated aggression of a predator focused on its prey. "You're just a coward, Oliver," Charles spat, wiping the blood from his split lip. "You've always been selfish, hiding behind others. This ends tonight." "Not if I can help it," Oliver growled, blocking a powerful punch and throwing a strike of his own. But there was no denying that the tide was turning against him. He could feel the weight of fear creeping closer. It dripped from his skin like the rain that hammered the roof above. With a swift kick, he landed a blow to Charles's midsection, but it only staggered him momentarily. He could see the hate burning in Charles's eyes. This wasn't just revenge. It was a bitter vendetta that would not end without bloodshed. That he glanced at Lila, who stood breathless, eyes darting between him and the approaching throng of shadows. She was a warrior now, but the reality of their situation sank in like lead. "Stay back. This is my fight," Oliver shouted, breathless. He braced himself as the shadows loomed, ready to descend. In stark contrast, the storm outside subsided, casting an eerie silence over the chaos inside the warehouse. A new dread mixed with the fading rain. This wasn't just about him anymore, and as the shadows closed in, Oliver realized the truth. Choices had consequences, and every choice made tonight would shape their future. "Believe in me," he whispered to Lila, but in that moment, a cracking sound echoed from the door behind them. The warehouse trembled, and the ground beneath Oliver's feet seemed to shift. What was happening outside? Did salvation or doom await them just beyond the threshold? The final moment of choice was upon them, and Oliver could only hope he was strong enough to face whatever came next. Oliver felt the ground shake again, a violent tremor that sent a shiver up his spine. It felt like the world was ready to crumble beneath them. The shadows closing in became more defined, menacing, each silhouette wreathed in menace, ready to snuff out the spark of defiance that flickered in Oliver's heart. In that moment of hesitation, he could almost hear Lila's breath quickening beside him, her fear translating into the air around them, thick and heavy. The room buzzed with anticipation, drowning out the silence. He had to act, had to protect her, but he was one against too many. "Oliver! To your left!" Lila shouted, her voice breaking through the haze of dread. He pivoted just in time to block a fist aimed for his jaw. He shoved his attacker back, sending him sprawling across a pile of crates. But the movement left his right side exposed, and he felt a sharp pain slice through his ribs as another figure connected with him. It was like being hit by a freight train, instantly blurring his vision. Staggering back, gasping for air, Oliver saw Lila take another swing at the armed man. Each precious second she could buy was a chance for salvation, but how long could she sustain that? How long would they be able to hold their ground? The loud crack of the door breaking open filled the room, a sound that rumbled like thunder. They all turned in unison, eyes wide, hearts pounding. The harsh, silver light from outside spilled into the dim warehouse, revealing a stooped figure in a long coat. "Get down!" The figure shouted, brandishing something. Oliver squinted, and it looked like some kind of firearm. There was no telling if he was friend or foe, but they needed the distraction. And then, the figure fired a shot. Bang! The loud pop resonated through the space, piercing through the clamoring chaos. Charles and his gang ducked instinctively, momentarily stunned. This was their moment. "Now, Lila!" Oliver roared, lunging toward Charles with all the strength he could muster, using the momentary confusion to his advantage. He barely felt the pain shooting through his side as he charged. They collided, and Oliver felt everything tighten, his muscles, his resolve, and the expectations of the past he'd fought so desperately to escape. The two men toppled to the ground, wrestling for dominance. Oliver could practically taste desperation, his own and that of his enemy. With a ferocity that shocked him, Oliver threw Charles off, pushing him violently away. But just as he caught his breath, he noticed the figure in the doorway. The light behind them illuminated a grim face twisted with fear. "Run!" the stranger ordered, their voice tinged with urgency. But Oliver couldn't abandon this fight. Not with Lila so close, not when they had made it so far. Grinding his teeth, he looked past the chaos and caught Lila's eye. "Get to the door. Now!" As she moved in response, Oliver took on another attacker, throwing a punch that landed squarely and jolted him back. He felt like a coiled spring, ready to snap. The adrenaline surged, but time stretched, each movement weighed down by the volatile atmosphere and the threat that loomed behind him. And the chaos, a thought crossed his mind. What if this wasn't just survival? What if there was something larger looming behind all of this? The shadows seemed to pulse with a sinister rhythm, their true depth hidden in the chaos. Lila had made it toward the light, her figure flickering like a flame in the dark. Suddenly, a shout rang out behind him. "Don't let her escape!" Oliver whipped around. The tranquility of the doorway felt worse than the fray he was in. What lay outside was still unknown, but he could feel the claws of his own past waiting just beyond. He had a choice to make, one that could lead to freedom or destruction. And in that fleeting moment, he felt the weight of every decision brought down upon him like a thunderous waterfall. Was it time to run, indeed? Or would he choose to face whatever darkness awaited them beyond the threshold? His breath hitched. A shadow loomed. "Lila!" Oliver called out, but the question rose like bile in his throat. Would he be able to save her too? Oliver's heart raced, blood pounding in his ears as he struggled against the flurry of fists and fury. The chaos erupted around him, each second a battle that felt like an eternity. Lila's determined voice echoed in his head, urging him onward. "Get out now!" He growled, desperation coloring his tone, yet he couldn't back down. Not like this. Not when monsters from the past had resurfaced, dragging demons into the light. He grappled with this familiar ghost, pushing hard against Charles, yearning to grasp some semblance of power, of control. "You've twisted the past into something monstrous, but I want to let you shape my future." With newfound ferocity, Oliver swept his leg out, knocking Charles off balance. The satisfaction of seeing Charles topple felt fleeting, the weight of others closing in flooded his senses. Adrenaline surged through him, becoming the only fuel worthy of this fight. Lila, steadily moving toward the doorway, dodged one of Charles's henchmen. "Oliver, come on. We need to go." The urgency in her voice rocketed through him like a shot of caffeine. "Just hold on," he roared, directing his energy into a punch he threw at a glowering figure approaching from the side. The punch landed, but it barely daunted the guy. He returned with a sharp jab to Oliver's ribs. Pain lanced through him, but he fought through it. This was about survival now that a crack of thunder rumbled from outside. It was a tempest reflected in the cafe just hours ago. Lila's eyes were wide, shimmering with fear yet stoked with a fierce determination. She was more than just a lover caught in this web, she was a fighter. I want to let you lose this fight, Oliver. Fight back. With a renewed sense of purpose, Oliver redirected his focus. He squared off against Charles, recalling their past, deals made, friendships shattered. You think you can haunt me forever? You think fear will silence me? Charles's grin faltered. For a fraction of a second, doubt marred his confident facade. Fear is just the beginning. You've never understood that. Yet, the quiet confidence faltered in the face of Oliver's newfound resolve, a flicker of uncertainty lighting the path to victory. Oliver lunged forward as if propelled by the very spirit of the storm raging outside. They crashed into crates, splinters scattering like whispers of their shared betrayal. You chose darkness over light. Now we'll see whose shadow is stronger. The figure in the doorway shouted again, urging them to flee, but Oliver felt cornered. Escape would mean abandoning Lila. There was an alternative unfolding in front of him. He could turn back the tide of darkness. Lila. He called, locking eyes with her. Trust me. I'm doing this for us. Then let us end this. Lila shouted, breaking into rhythm with him. She charged back toward the encroaching shadows, brandishing that iron bar like a warrior from a bygone age. With one swift motion, they moved in sync. Roundhouse kicks and heavy strikes met roiling power in the room. Lila took out one figure, sending him sprawling to the ground, wiping a surge of fear from Oliver's heart. But the shadows still loomed, lurking with chaos. As Oliver connected another blow to Charles's jaw, he felt the weight of his past secret straining against his skin. This isn't just a fight, it's a reckoning. With wounds both emotional and physical, the final confrontation brewed ahead. Enemies recoiled, but Oliver felt empowered, armed with purpose instead of regret. Lila stood beside him, fierce and unwavering. Together. He shouted, their hearts racing in the throes of battle. Finally, with the thunder shaking the air and the echoes of their fight thundering, the flickering lights above caught the realization. They were not just fighting to survive, they were fighting for their freedom together. Now! Oliver yelled, diving to push Lila toward the door as another attacker rushed forward from the shadows. With a sharp twist, he snagged a wooden beam, slamming it against the encroaching threat just as the man lunged. Wood splintered, held fast against the storm. Outside, the rain started to let up. Wind rustled through the nearby trees, a cleansing force embracing them even amid chaos. Go, go! He yelled. Lila, with the steel of a warrior, took his arm. They broke away from the remaining shadows shrouding them in darkness. Together. They shouted, their voices intertwining. With a final surge, they dashed out of the warehouse into the now welcoming light. The storm had passed. The threat of Charles and his enforcers faded behind them, melting into the night. Oliver's heart hammered, each beat a reminder of their resilience. He and Lila leaned against the cool brick wall just outside, drenched and breathless but undeniably alive. We made it, Lila gasped, a mixture of relief and exhilaration pouring from her. Oliver looked down at her, that fire of determination still glowing in her eyes. And now, we face the future. Together. The shadows had been confronted, the past reckoned with, and they emerged victorious. But the commitment they made, the choice to face their demons openly, this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be different, but they were ready. With a gentle squeeze of hands, Oliver chuckled, next time, just remind me to have a coffee before a fight. As they turned away from the remnants of the dark night, a new dawn brightened the horizon. They were ready to embrace whatever came next, together. The horizon glinted with hope, and it shimmered against the remnants of a storm past, and as Oliver and Lila disappeared into the brightness of the dawn, one last thought echoed through the vacant warehouse behind them. The shadows may linger, but with light and love, they would never win. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about this insane ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support shapes this channel. Show the love and keep the stories coming.